Most important best of 3 for many players. And we are starting off on Eternal Empire for this, guys. Game number 1. In the top right, as the red Zerg, he is Reynor.
And his opponent down here in the bottom left-hand side, a world champion himself and a Gineac Green Wings player for many years. In the bottom left, he's Rogue.
Sometimes overshadowed by the other guys on Gineac Wings, but then ditto to those guys. Just a lot of very good players grabbing championships over there.
He had kind of a weird year last year, didn't he? He kind of faded in the early middle part of the year, and then came back and was publicly saying, "Oh, I realized how overpowered Zerg was, so I said, maybe I should practice and win some stuff." And it was like, it was this weird thing. He kept saying this sort of stuff in interviews. All the Zergs were quickly planning to abduct him and keep him quiet. But, you know, he was coming out, and obviously, especially Swarm Host Nidus, we've seen him abuse a ton.
Yeah.
And, you know, Rogue, he's come back and he is in very good form. I think I underrated him a little bit compared to what we've seen so far today coming into this tournament. I said, oh, he's a bit hot and cold, you know, sometimes everything works out well and he looks like just unstoppable. Other times it doesn't all come together, but so far, so good today.
Yeah, I mean, aside from Armani, who unfortunately is already out, like, it just feels like we know we had our expectations and they weren't exactly shattered. Like, none of the rest of the players in this group were like, oh, well, they just played super poorly today. You know, that's understandable. It was just like, oh, well, the other guy actually just showed up. You know, like Sue showed up versus Reynor, rather than Reynor playing extremely poorly. So ended up being a very, very close group overall. And I do highly suggest, guys, to go ahead and use that multi-Twitch, catch the other streams, because they're also equally important. Check out.
There is not a moment of downtime when you're watching this tournament. There is non-stop, always something going on, often 2 or 3. I get a little bit excited, and as a massive StarCraft fan myself, whenever I'm not up here casting, I am watching 2 or 3 matches at a time, to the point where I feel like my brain's going to explode with the amount of just high-level StarCraft matches that I am witnessing. But let's start talking about this map. It is a quick third base for both players, so very standard play, Ling speed on the way for both of them. Of course, it's Eternal Empire. So features of this map, just to kind of summarize, it's a long rush distance and it's a large map with very defensible choke points. So as soon as you're on 2-3 bases, you're really very hard to assault. Past that point though, it does become a bit more viable. Because of that, we've seen Mutalisks incredibly popular on this map. Zerglings as well, taking advantage of just the many paths on this map once you get up to 4 or 5 bases to backstab and counterattack the opponent's economy.
Yep, Sue went for that Spire versus Reynor, and then even Armani tried to go for a hidden Spire versus Rogue in the bottom right of this map. So you're very right about that. Spire pretty popular, and that's kind of expected, but it is always a question of the timing of the Spire, and then, well, in some cases, people like to hide it, right? But first and foremost, with a ZVZ, we are checking to see the skill checks, right? You know, who makes a couple more Lings, who actually defends their third properly. Both of them get a Baneling Nest, but then both of them also Evolution Chamber and a Lair. Very close in build right now.
Yeah, this is just very much just pushing their way up that macro tree. Exactly the same work account here. The fast Evo Chamber going to allow quick upgrades, and it really just depends, you know. It looks like it's going to be Mutas from here. It looks like we'll see melee upgrade come in for both players. There is a chance one of them goes Roaches from here.
You think?
A very small chance.
Yeah?
It's a quick lair, but there is sometimes that variation of the build where someone just kind of goes, no, I'm just getting it for roach speed, +1 range. Obviously, it's very bare bones what you're defending with. No upgrade at all for Rogue so far.
Yeah, that's, I mean, Reynor starting +1 melee, as you were talking. Kind of what we anticipate from him, that Roach Warren could be a bit of a bluff for now, as Rogue will be eventually checking in on the natural. Rogue at a similar time.
It's almost like a just-in-case / fake Roach Warren for both of them, I kind of want to say. Because, yeah, Spire drops immediately for Rogue. And he's going to do a biggerling Bane pressure here, so he's going to start putting some action over onto Reynor's side of the map.
Did he see the canceled Roach Warren? It was canceled, yeah? I mean, it was just put down. He also would have seen no Jiggly on the Evolution Chamber, right? Which he's getting +1 melee, you know, it's a bit deceiving, but that's usually what you expect in a macro game. So are they Are they both, aware of the potential for Spire? Because both of them are doing exactly that.
Ooh, the Baneling does save the Queen there to start things off. The Queen in the natural wall's under assault. Lots of Banelings finishing up. Great respect here from Reynor. Might need to make a few more. That stream of Zerglings and Banelings is not stopping. That Queen, she gets back to the choke point. She will keep herself alive for a moment longer, but we need more Banelings over here. Reynor did not do a good job of preserving more Banelings. Where's the extra morph? He's been way too greedy.
Yeah, he absolutely has. I mean, you expect even maybe some emergency roaches, as you were talking about, just because this is starting to snowball a little bit, and collecting Banelings when it's already snowballed at this composition can be very difficult to do. In fact, Rogue pouncing on top of the ones he's trying to make. Quick cancels there. Queen's trying to hold the line as Reynor desperately gets more Lings out here. He's about to have +1 as well, but will he have enough Lings to actually use it?
An upgrade kicking in after a lot of the fighting's over. Still non-stop Ling Bane on the way here for Rogue. More Banelings coming in, and there's nothing in the wall.
It was very close losing all of his Lings, but it might still be enough. One Baneling alive. He's trying to micro against it, and it will be good for the micro, but more and more Lings as Rogue continues to pile on the pressure. He's also grabbing 7 mutas behind this for Reynor. His Spire might be done, but he hasn't actually started any.
The upgrade has finished now. +1 melee Zerglings, much better here in combat. The problem is Rogue just has so much more stuff out on the map. These trades have been so good for him. Reynor slipping up a little bit. Though when you see your opponent pressuring like that, you have to make more Banelings. But he was being too greedy. He did not notice the reinforce coming across the map. He thought it was just one wave. And now Reynor, under the gun of these quick mutalisks, is trying to build Desperation Corruptors.
We actually have Rogue starting up that +1 attack, so I might not be expecting a Spire from his opponent. It is going to be a Spire from Reynor, but it's actually going to be Corruptors. He probably figured out what his opponent was doing just based off the amount of Lings. But only having 3 Queens after so many died, those are the replacement Queens. They quickly go down. There's no transfuse available. He's got to wait for the 8 Corruptors, and they will come out possibly to save a few drones here and there, but he has lost so much mining on that 3rd base.
Yeah, these Corruptors not going to do well. Does focus fire the low hit point muta, which is nicely done. The worker count still almost dead even, but there is a big army advantage for Rogue, and these Mutalisks, of course, not able to only shoot the Corruptors. They can focus down these drones and causing Reynor a ton of lost mining time.
Every map matters as well. This is looking so good for Rogue, and maybe he takes this map, he can lose out the series, but yeah, maps matter. Reynor kind of chuckling to himself. That's usually a sign he knows it's over, but he's not willing to tap out yet. Maybe a lucky run by. He does still have that melee upgrade going, but he's just getting overwhelmed.
I mean, this was just a great way to open up this series for Rogue. Just a solid skill check. It's a very surprising and odd time to rally a massive Ling Bane across the map, and it did catch Reynor off guard. Reynor not able to get his Queens over there. Of course, unfortunately, not able to get enough Banelings up as well, and Corruptors versus Mutas, you can make it work, but being 2 base versus 3, having less Zerglings on the ground, even with the melee upgrade, this is an impossible scenario. You see Rogue here has all the mobility. He can pick and choose when he wants to fight.
I mean, what exactly does Reynor do? They're both supply blocking each other, funnily enough. We have Overlord Speed started.
Apparently he's decided Baneling drops are the way back into this game. I'm not really sure what that's about. Nice pickoffs here with the Mutas. Take out a few of those Banelings. Oh no! The door is open. Lings in the base on both sides of the map. Chaos ensuing here. Desperation wall off those drones. Trapped on the outside. They are not allowed back in. But look at that. Reynor's economy is completely gone.
He's going to try and bust it with the Banelings. It'll barely be enough, but the Corruptors are back home. Not here. There they are, but they're a little late as the Mutas take on the Lings. Reynor is forced to tap out, and he does not look confident about that.
It's a perfect build here. Tail stages of the group. The pressure is highest. You might be getting a little bit tired as well. Just the sheer number of games, the many hours they've been here practicing and playing today. More mistakes will be made in these high pressure moments. And Rogue says, I don't want to have to react under this pressure. I want to be the one forcing you to react to me. And that Ling Bane rally, I mean, that was not 20 Zerglings. It was like 80 Zerglings rallied across the map. Just a non-stop succession of it. Reynor just not able to react to that. And that's one of those mistakes. A player of Reynor's caliber, he's going to be very frustrated with himself. He knows that's something where he had all the information he needed. He just messed up his micro once or twice in a small way and was a little slow to make extra Banelings.
Do you think he was also, appropriately misguided with that Roach Warren going down from Rogue? Or do you think that was just all about the micro?
I really do think that doesn't change too much. I think either way, you should be able to respond to it. I think it's a great little move there to deny the scouting, limit the information. I think it's almost more important that the Roach Warren blocks the scout from getting in, right? Just stop the Zergling as long as there's no more forward warning of the Lings popping out. And then, you know, you only see them when the Overlord spots them leaving the map. And guess what? Not all 4 Banelings were finished when he comes in. You start surrounding a Queen, even though there's a few good Baneling hits. Once those first 4 Banelings are gone, if Reynor hasn't bought enough time for his next Baneling Cocoons to finish, suddenly you see Zerglings morph into Banelings, them getting sniped before they can actually finish that morph. And that's a terrible situation to be in.
Yeah. All right, game number 2 on Triton in the top left. As the Red Zerg now down 1, he is Reynor.
And down here in the bottom right-hand side, in the blue, representing Jin Green Wings, it is Rogue.
I'm trying to get some updates on the map calculation, guys, you know, as we go along, as the other matches are played. It's still a little bit cloudy is what I'm going to say here. They might be able to decipher. But that's, I mean, I know Reynor is probably has been told some very accurate stats when this started, but he really, like, he doesn't know how the other series are going. And they're
Yeah,
pretty
absolutely. All the series have lined up to start at the same time. And I mean, honestly, there's only one target for Reynor, because with map score, it comes down to what the scores are in other series going on simultaneously right now.
Yeah.
I mean, for him, he's not thinking about calculating the numbers and what he needs to do. Reynor, you know, he's a consummate professional, as is Rogue, and they say, hey, I'm going into this match, I have one goal, and that's to win as one-sidedly as possible. Already dropping a map is a bit frustrating here for Reynor. Obviously, for Rogue, smooth sailing. It's just going to be about winning the series, and I think, you know, it's right to bring up, we're all wondering where those standings are going to be. It's in the back of the players' heads, but it's their job to kind of zone that out and just focus on what they've got to do here in each map.
I do wonder how much Reynor was able to zone out. I mean, he was, he did not want to tap out of that last game, but he was constantly taking his hands off the keyboard, you know, grinning to himself, and I feel like it came on the forefront of his mind at some point there, when he could actually think about things. But that was also a bit of Rogue bringing Reynor's game to him. I mean, obviously these guys can all play different styles, but Reynor has been identified with the Ling Muta style.
Yeah, there was definitely room for a bit of damage to be taken. Reynor was way up on workers. He could have lost 5 or 10, stabilized, and it would have been fine. He would have been up an upgrade still. But it got out of control. Once you lose all your queens and you're on the back foot there, things do get worse and worse. But here, Triton, another large map choice.
Yep.
And one where it is looking like both players going to be going for third bases and Zergling speed again. Neither of them pulling off gas. So yeah, just Ling Bane. I mean, this is the way to play. In my opinion, on these big maps, the mobility of those Zerglings, how long it takes Roaches to get across the map, I think this is just a far superior way to playing than the gasless wall-off builds.
Yeah, that really seemed to have fallen out, didn't it? I mean, there's some tricks behind that, so they occasionally pop up, but as a macro game, I haven't seen that in a while.
Yeah, I saw Supul one out, might have been on this map actually, against Armani before.
Okay.
Other than that, I think that's probably the only time I've actually seen it in a ZVZ here. I was surprised to see it on this map. I was thinking maybe on a smaller map like Ephemeron, where the Roach Push has a bit more weight to it, a little bit more scare factor. But, you know, I would not be surprised to see both players play very similar openings to last game. If so, I don't think we'll see Rogue go for the skipping the upgrade. I think we'll see Rogue actually use that Evolution Chamber this game.
I'd say so as well. Yeah, Triton only slightly shorter than Eternal Empire, especially because they will be expanding what we'd call defensively compared to the other races, maybe. But it's gonna take a little while to get over there, but you know, Rogue still hit that timing that just very closely worked out. We do have a Roach Warren versus a Lair started. I imagine they both will also start, you know, the other one soon enough.
Remember, there is that +1 range attack, Roach kind of Ling Bane attack, which people do sometimes do recently.
Yeah.
With the Lair being so delayed, there is that. That's on the cards for Rogue. You know, shut down the early scout from Reynor. And we'll just have to keep our eye on if he builds a few extra Overlords and then makes a ton of Roaches at once.
Yeah, but well, the Overlords are being built, right? But the Roach Warren in the main is actually kind of a big deal. That almost never happens, right? It's always at the wall to literally help out the wall. And it can be deceiving, like, you know, literally we've already gone over that. But the fact that it's in the main and then he makes another one.
Oh, yeah, I was about to say it would be really cool if you make a fake Roach Warren at the front. Rogue here, Big Brain Gaming. He's not even using the Evo. Does he stop? Ooh, didn't even fake the upgrade there, but I don't think Reynor had time to notice. I mean, you really need a few seconds to notice the animation there. Reynor still droning. He does not have a lot of information right now. And here comes a bit of Ling Bane. So really what Rogue's looking for is distraction here. This Ling Bane is just to distract Reynor, keep him droning, keep him busy. And he's going to follow up with a huge Roach Ling Bane attack. The Roach is starting to rally out here. Spinecrawler on the way. Roach's Ling's Bane's being made for Reynor. This is a gigantic attack from Rogue.
Yeah, he accidentally started Burrow. That's not what you want. You want as many units as possible. As much minerals and gas can afford into Roaches, and then Spinecrawlers if you can afford them as well. It looks like some of them will finish, but he's got to hold the line. He's got to hope the Banelings don't really get amazing connections on basically anything. It is all coming down to this, as Rogue is being the aggressor. He wants to get the quick 2-0. Reynor has that concave, but where are the Spinecrawlers to help out?
Got to keep those Banelings alive. I think you've got to keep at least one or two of these Banelings. There's always a Ling Flood behind this, and you got to watch out for that here as Reynor. Roach is pulling in behind the wall. That's a good pullback. 2 Spines at the third base. Not going to take part in this fight. Oh, he's got to keep them. There we go. One of them's moving forward. The Roach Warren's getting focused here. Reynor pulling very far back. Too far, I would say. His units are up in his main base.
He does have another Spinecrawler to try and bring forward, but that is so many units here on the collective outside. And actually, +1, not even affect this fight. It's going to be denied by 5 seconds. The drone will try and save it, but it is denied. The drones have got to try and save this. They're going to pull into the Roaches, so they're actually, the Spinecrawler is now affecting the match, but is that going to be enough?
Banelings on the right-hand side as well. If they can find the Zerglings, that'll be huge. Those Banelings coming in from the right-hand side, looking for the Zerglings, but a good disengage from Rogue. Looks to isolate the Spinecrawlers. These drones still buffering for Reynor. Is it going to be enough? He's down 5 workers. He's losing a ridiculous amount of mining time. And these Roaches, Ravagers, and Zerglings continuing to get work done for Rogue.
And behind this, Rogue has started his own +1. His Lairs also started. Reynor going to go for a bit of a Hail Mary here and trying to replace his Roach Horn as well. Rogue does pull back, so this is not the end of the game yet, but Rogue just got a pretty good lead.
All right, we got Lings wet branching their way around the left-hand side for Reynor. Going to use their mobility factor. Banelings Roach is going to stay on the defense. He's going to try and recover in the droning. I think that's a good move here. Of course, trailing by about 5 workers. Definitely unfortunate. And remember, that upgrade never kicked in for the Roaches, which is such a pain for Reynor. His Roaches not going to benefit from the ability to 2-shot Zerglings. They're going to take that extra 3rd shot every single time.
I wonder how much Rogue is anticipating this kind of desperate Spire. He is going for a lot of Roaches, possibly trying to hit with that +1 and just nip it in the bud, basically. There's only so many mutas that Reynor could be able to afford, and they only do so much damage to mass Roach Ling Floods. I mean, does he even actually have that lair? He never started Roach Speed. He's just going to try and win right here again.
It's round 2.
Yeah.
Round 2 of the same thing. He's got a +1 upgrade for the Roaches. It's going to kick in. That's it. Wants to get rid of this Overlord before he shows it. And you can see that lovely Corrosive Bile takes out the Overlord, and it's go time. I think Rogue here, with these last pack of Roaches coming out, +1 on the way, he's going to flood across this map. The Mutalisks have just started. That is so late. This force is already knocking on the doorstep, and Rogue looking to knock Reynor down and severely limit his chances of getting out of this grip.
I mean, he even got supply blocked right there for Reynor. Not that a couple of more Roaches or a couple more Mutas would have been enough. This Ling little run by is not even enough to bother Rogue, actually. The Queen just deals with it, no problem. That is a 40 supply difference, and while, yes, Roaches and Lings do not shoot up, it'll take forever for 5 Mutas to clean this up.
All right, going for the 3rd base, first of all. Not a bad snipe. We'll take it out, but it has to do more. Rogue going to push up into the base. The Banelings, a nice hit to start things off there for Reynor. The Muta's actually starting to do some damage right now. Some good Corrosive Biles landing. And as the Roaches force their way forwards, the Banelings coming in big, taking out these Zerglings. The Mutas are actually doing a great job here for Reynor.
It's very important that Reynor actually held a line as opposed to letting Roaches into his main and natural. But this actually might be the start of a comeback as Reynor is holding on to the main ramp now, letting the Mutas do whatever damage they can. His drones have been evacuated, so he's still holding somewhat strong.
The Corrosive Biles are so good on that ramp. He's using them to just buy so much time. Those Corrosive Biles, these Ravagers that Reynor invested in, a great emergency response here, and manages to keep him alive in this game.
He is alive. He's going to bring back the drones immediately to the natural to try and get as much optimal mining as possible. His 3rd base was destroyed easily, but it was a necessary sacrifice, and now Reynor has to try and do something extreme with the Mutas he has. He's no longer investing into them, it looks like. He does have enough to retake that hatchery, but that'll be a long time before his mining is even efficient.
I almost want to see a Hydra Den for Reynor. I'd love to see something wild like rushing to Lurkers here. There's a few different options. He's going to go for the Evolution Chamber. He's going to add a few more Mutalisks here. And Roach Speed is on the way. A few Queens being rebuilt. Reynor, he's making Banelings on the left-hand side. He wants to do something more here. He knows that Rogue has that third base up and running. And even though Rogue is not actually building more workers, he's making Roaches and Queens, and that is a Nidus Worm in the production tab. It's going to be round 3 soon enough.
I mean, kudos to Reynor for holding out to round 3, right? But I know some people in chat are maybe rolling their eyes like, oh, very cool, Nidus from Rogue, right? But it's absolutely the right call. He has a good number of Queens to take on any Muta presence, and while Reynor, I mean, this happens like a decent amount, right? The Mutas barely hold on, and the next kill is going to be the Nidus, so Reynor might be anticipating this, but how do you ever stop it?
As Reynor right now, I'd be worried about the frontal push as well. It's time to actually kill your own creep tumors. They're going to help your opponent out more than you. And this creep, you know, it's almost connected in the middle of the map, to be honest. His creep tumors are actually going to help these Queens a lot, but it's a bit too late now to get rid of those. And Reynor does not have a lot of time to respond. He's making Roaches. He's going to try to pick off this first Nidus Worm.
Yeah, it's going to be picked off. Can transfuse that. But the Queens, as you were talking about, are now on Reynor's creep, and that is helping. The Roaches actually just flew past the Mutas as well, and only a handful of Roaches for Reynor to stop them from bringing to the main base. Drones will have to be pulled into this. Mutas doing some extra good damage here as the Queens are taking a little while to come forward.
Nice move on the drones. It was a hold position, so they're not being focused, but now they start to fall in droves. Reynor sending them quickly back to mine. The Mutas going for the Roaches. More Roaches and Mutas building here for Reynor. He's desperately trying to hang on by a fingernail. He takes out most of the Roaches, but the Queen still standing strong, and they have a ton of transfusers.
And now the Nidus Worm is up. He would have heard that cry if he didn't see it with his own creep tumors. And Spore Colos are on the way. They can't be transfused right now, but the Queens have to die now. And there's the micro there. Roach is trying to talk about it as well. Can Reynor hold for the 3rd time?
Just short of the Muta count that he needed to one-shot the Queens. Because they weren't able to do that, the transfusers did land, but the Muta's going to take them out. The problem is those spores have now finished. The Queens say, okay, the spores are here, let's pop back out. The Roaches threatening the economy. The Mutas need to do something about the Roaches, but at the same time, the anti-air is setting up inside his own base.
Oh, Reynor knows that it's game. GG is called, and Rogue takes a very, very important 2-0. He's going to be happy about that. That does confirm, I believe, him going into the next round, but Reynor might still need to see what the other matches were like.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll be getting an update from that shortly, of course, over on the desk, but I mean, what a performance here from Rogue. He has just been absolutely monster moding today, and that does give him, I believe, a good chance of going out first place in the group. It is between him and Zest, of course. Zest's series versus Armani yet to be completely finished. And of course, don't forget to check out those other 2 streams, which are showing the other 2 matches, those ones that are still going. An unfortunate loss there for Reynor, but his chances may still be alive in this tournament.